Hey kids, and welcome to Fireside Kids! And we are in our Heroes of Faith Part 3. And I am so excited for this week's adventure. Our theme verse for this whole series is found in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. And it says this: "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." And remember, faith is something that we have, that we believe in something. We believe in God, even though we may not see Him. That's faith. And we will live our lives with that knowing that God is there, even though we don't see Him. And today's hero is Moses in our Heroes of Faith series. And God uses Moses to save His people. And you know what? God can use you to help others too. Can you believe maybe He can have you help your brother or your sister? And I know you're thinking, I don't want to help my brother or my sister. They smell bad. Have you seen them? They're annoying. But maybe God's calling you to help them, or your mom or your dad, or there's a friend. But God can use you to do big things in other people's life. But before we dive into Moses, let's check in on Ace and Big Blake. BB!
Hey, BB, high five.
I'm not BB, I'm just Batman.
Well, you're Batman now. I love how you're being a spy pretending to be Batman. But remember that time, I'm just thinking here, that time that Stinky Steve captured me? You remember that time? Help! Wait! And then remember the Princess Warriors? They tried to rescue me, but they couldn't. Remember that?
Yeah.
But then, what happened? You came and you rescued me. You remember that?
Yeah, I'm fine.
And you flew a little bit. Thanks for rescuing me, man.
Hey, I hear you! Hey, to save you! 1, 2, 3!
Hold up. I really want to see that fight scene and see how BB saves Ace. But before we dive into that, I want to introduce you to a real hero of faith, and that is Moses. In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 27, it says this: by faith, he, Moses, left Egypt behind, and not being afraid of the king's anger, for Moses persevered as one who sees him who is invisible. And then in verse 29, it says, by faith, they crossed the Red Sea as though they were on dry land. When the Egyptians attempted to do this, they were drowned. That Moses did some really hard things to save God's people. That God said, Moses, I want you to go back. I want you to save my people. And you know what Moses said? He said, yes. And God used Moses to do great things, and miraculous things happened. And I believe that God is asking you to go and help others too. What if we all helped other people and we said yes to God's calling to help other people? Imagine the world we would live in. So ask God, God, how can you use me to help others? And then listen. So let's check out this cartoon on Moses.
Stories of the Bible. Moses, God's servant. This is Moses, who was an Israelite boy born in a time when Israelite boys were not supposed to live. By faith, Moses' parents hid him for 3 months after he was born because they saw he was no ordinary child, and they were not afraid of Pharaoh. You see, Moses lived in Egypt, and the Israelites were slaves to the Egyptians. But God had a plan for his people and Moses. Moses was adopted into the Pharaoh's family and grew up in the Egyptian palace. By faith, Moses refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to share in the pain of his people rather than enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin, for he was looking ahead to his great reward. When Moses had grown up, he made a big mistake and fled Egypt for fear that he would be killed. He came to live with the Midianites for many years. One day, God spoke to Moses through a burning bush and called him back to Egypt to fulfill his plan. But Moses was afraid and didn't think he was the right man for the job. So God gave Moses his brother Aaron as a helper. So Moses went back to Egypt. He and Aaron asked Pharaoh to let God's people go. After much hardship due to the Pharaoh's hardened heart, Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt and towards the Promised Land. It was by faith that Moses left the land of Egypt, not fearing Pharaoh's anger. He kept right on going because he kept his eyes on the one who is invisible. It was by faith that the people of Israel went through the Red Sea as though they were on dry ground. And then God's people wandered in the desert for many years, even though the way to the Promised Land only took a few days. While wandering in the desert, God gave the Israelites food to eat.
What's that?
And water to drink, and was with them as they made their way to the Promised Land. God gave them many other laws and rules to live by to keep them safe and to set them apart as his own people. He gave them 10 commandments about how they should live. Through it all, God took care of his people and used his servant, Moses, to accomplish his good plan.
Man, God really used Moses to do some really amazing things. And you know what? He can do really amazing things through you as well. And he can use you to help others as well. But I'm a little curious to find out what happens to Ace and how BB can ultimately save him. So let's go check in and find out what happens. Okay, kids, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week on Fireside Kids. See you later, guys.